In our last video, that was the part 2 of our series of videos on 251 chord progression. We saw how to add the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th extension on a major 251 chord progression. Today we are going to see how to use those same extensions to apply them on a minor 251 chord progression. By the way, you're welcome to the Musicians Lab, and we're starting right now. Our example is going to be in the minor tonality of G, okay? Because we are playing a minor 251. So we know that in the case of a minor 251, the 2 is minor 7 flat 5, okay? The 2 is minor 7 flat 5, and the 5 is a dominant 7 chord, or a minor natural, or a minor 7, or any minor chord with an extension. So we can have minor, natural, minor, minor 7, or we can have also, because these are diatonically resolved. So on the 5 we can play dominant 7, okay, since we know that dominant chords call the root, okay, so we can play dominant 7 and resolved on the minor root, or we can play a minor natural or a minor 7 or any other minor extension to diatonically resolved. It works great. So most often in jazz, on a minor 251, the 5 is dominant 7. In case we want to give it that, minor harmonic taste, minor harmonic flavor. You see? So we'll get to all this, okay? But today we are trying to see how to use those 3 extensions, okay, on a minor 251 chord progression. So now our 2 is dominant 7, and then our 1 is minor. Okay, so now on the 2, which is a minor 7 flat 5, we are going to see how possible it is to add the 9th extension on these 3 chords, okay, of the minor 251 chord progression. And then we'll also see how to add the 11th extension, and we are going to add also the 13th extension to each chord of this minor 251 chord progression. So the first chord here is A, minor 7 flat 5 on a minor 251 of G. So the A here is going to be a minor 7 flat 5, okay? And we are going to add the 9th extension. So let's just check the 9th extension. In A, the 9th extension is B, okay? And in G minor, it sounds quite dissonant. So what we're going to do here, we might not be forced to play a 9th extension on a chord which is already extended. So this chord has already a flat 5, extension, okay? So we can just keep our A minor flat 5 just like this, okay? Or we can still decide to add the 9, but in this case, if we want to diatonically resolve, then the 9 is going to flatten, okay? So now we are not going to have a perfect 9 here, okay? But we are going to have a flat 9 extension on that minor 7 flat 5. So we are going to have a minor 7 flat 5 like this, okay? Plus a flat 9 extension, and it's going to be called A minor 7 flat 9 flat 5, or flat 5 flat 9. And these are 5 and 6 note chord, and they are typically difficult to play on guitar, but very easy to play on piano, since we don't have the same configuration or the same notes and placement. It is easy to play on piano, but on guitars it becomes difficult. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use an uncommon way to play this chord. In case you want to have that experience of playing a 5-note chord, I'm going to show you a technique or some way you can play that minor 7 flat 5 flat 9 chord, okay? So what we will do is that we are going to find our minor 7 flat 5, okay? So we have the 2 minor 7 flat 5. So this sounds quite dissonant. So what we are going to do, we are going to flatten it, okay, and bring it to B flat. So instead of B, we are going to have a minor 7 flat 5 chord and a B flat extension. Okay, so it's going to sound like this. Okay, so it's up to you whether you can play it or not play it. I'm just showing you how you can make that chord sound. So now we are done with the 2. On the 5, we are going to apply the 9th extension. So the 5 is a dominant 7 chord and it's a D dominant 7. So what we are going to do is that we are going to add the 9th extension. And the 9th extension here is E. And E, the 9th extension, the perfect 9 extension here, is quite dissonant. So if we want to diatonically resolve, then we'll have to flatten the 9 on that dominant 7 chord, okay? So we are going to flat the 9 or sharpen the 9 so it can fit in the key, in the scale, on the minor scale of G. So we are going to flatten the 9, which is this, to this. So we are going to have a flat 9 or sharp 9, and then our last chord will be a minor chord, which is G minor, okay? And we'll also see how we can add the 9th extension. So the 9 in G minor is going to be A, okay? So a G minor chord with a 9th extension. So this is the 9 here. So now our chord will be a minor 9 chord. So that's going to sound like this. Now let's move to the 11th extension. How can we add 11th extensions on a minor 2-5-1? So our first here is going to be a minor 7 flat 5 chord, okay? A minor 7 flat 5 chord plus that 11th extension. So the 11 here in this case is in A. The 11th extension will be the D, okay? So now what we are going to do is that we might feel like cancelling the flat 5 and turn it into the 11th extension on a guitar, and turn it into the 11th extension since both notes fit actually in the scale of G minor and they are diatonically resolved, so we won't have any problem of dissonance. So on the 2, I can play a minor 11 chord, okay, and it fits in, right? Okay, or I can play my minor 7 flat 5 chord, okay, and then add the 11th extension, but it will be very hard to play. So you are going to have something like this. So this is the minor, this is the minor 7 flat 5, okay, and then you are going to add this note. So that's going to give something like that. But it's not something easy to play on guitar. But I'm just showing you so you can try your best out there whether you want to make those chords sound. And when they are sounding, they sound great. But just that they are difficult to play on guitar. But I'm just showing you the way how you can, with more practice, be able to easily play those chords. So our minor 7 flat 5 and the 11th addition is going to be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 11th. So on the 5, we are going to apply the 11th extension. Here, what we are going to do is that we are going to consider the minor 7 instead of the dominant 7, but we're going to play also the dominant 7. So in case we want to play a minor chord to diatonically resolve, what I call diatonic is any harmony which is not out of these 7 notes, okay? So any harmony that are formed, or any chord that are formed with any of these 7 notes that I just played, is called diatonically, because it is in the key, in that minor key of G. So if we want to diatonically resolve, we're going to have a C minor 11, a D minor 11, okay? So in this case, the 5 is going to be a minor 11 chord, and it's going to sound like this. Okay, let me play it again. Okay. This is D minor 11, okay? So now you can play that dominant 11 chord also. So that will be something like that. If you want to play a dominant chord, you can play something like a dominant 11, and that's going to sound like this. Okay? So that note is going to be there. That minor harmonic, flavor, as I said earlier. So if you want to play a dominant 7 chord, you can play a dominant 7 chord. Since this is, the leading tone to our root, so you can add it, okay, and play a dominant 7 chord to give it that harmonic minor, flavor. So we're going to have a dominant 7, okay, chord plus an 11 extension. So that's going to be, and then G minor. So on the last chord, which is G minor, we are not going to add any 11th, because the 11th will make it sound like a sus chord, and a sus chord is an unresolved chord. And here the root is G minor, and if we are playing the root, we shouldn't make it sound as an unresolved chord, because after G there is nothing else. You understand? So on G, we are not going to play any 11th extension, because if we want to play an 11th extension, it is still possible, but it will sound this way. Okay? Which look like you have to play this and then go to another key. So on the last chord, which is the G, we are not going to apply any 11 chord, because applying an 11 extension will make the chord sound like an unresolved chord, a sus chord. And we might not like our root to sound like a chord which is unresolved, or which is calling for another chord. So we will just play a G minor. But by the way, let me show you the G, what the G minor 11 will sound like. Or, okay. So getting to our last extension, we are going to apply the 13th extension on the minor 7 flat 5 chord of A. So we're going to have an A minor 7 flat 5, and then a 13th extension, which will be this. And it sounds dissonant. So if you want to diatonically resolve, this 13 is either going to be flattened or sharpened. So we have, so now we have our minor 7 flat 5 chord, okay, and then that 13 extension. So this is a sharp 13, okay, so this is a sharp 13, or flat 13, so that's going to give something like that. Okay, so we have or, and then getting to our 5, we are going to play a dominant 13, but this is a dominant this is the 13th note of D. So D dominant 13 will sound like this, and that note is quite dissonant. So if we want to diatonically resolve, that 13 here will be either a flat 13 or a sharp 13. So we're going to have, so that it can fit in our minor scale of G. So, okay, so instead of B, is going to be a dominant 13, a D dominant 13 plus a flat 13 extension. So that's going to sound like this. Or you can make it a dominant 7 sharp 13, and the sharp 13 is nothing but the dominant 7 note, which is the flat 7, which is the minor 7 note, which is here. So when you go to the upper octave, it becomes a sharp 13 extension. So the sharp 13 is just the dominant note, okay? So we just have to play a D dominant or a D dominant flat 13. So that's going to sound like this. Our last chord is going to be not a minor 13, because a minor 13 will give you this, and this note is not diatonic, it's dissonant, okay? So we want to find something that will fit in, so we are going to play that sharp 13, okay? That is nothing but the dominant note, just like on the 5. So we are just going to play G minor 7, which will be like a G minor sharp 13, which is the dominant 7 note, which is the minor, the flat 7, flat major 7. So we're going to have a G minor 7. So let me play the 3 chord with the 13 extension. So I said on the A, we're going to have something like that. A minor 7 flat 5, sharp 13. So that's going to sound like this. And the 5 is going to be a dominant 7 flat 13. Or a sharp 13, which is the same dominant 7 chord. And then our last chord is going to be G minor 7. Okay. Well, that's all for today. In our next video in this series, we are going to see how to apply modal harmonies, or voicings that normally people used to do on keyboards. We are going to see all this voicing in our next video, how you can use voicings on 251 and also resolve. So thank you for following the Musicians Lab, and I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, take care and peace.